Hey there, everybody, and how are you guys doing tonight? This is Joe Marin here from Mobile Cup of Joe, bringing you another edition of What's Brewing, our weekly Hangouts on Air live show where we're going to talk about everything that's gone on in the world of technology this past week. Coming up tonight, we have got a pretty awesome list. Our talk for the show is called It's That Nexus Time of Year because this is the time of year when we get the wonderful stream of Nexus leaks, whether it be specs or leaked renders of the new Nexus devices. So we're just spending a good part of the show going over what's been leaked so far this week. But along with that, we've got some good talks about a new Android-powered BlackBerry device, a new Pebble smartwatch that was announced, and we have a special guest from AT&T to show off the brand new and newly released iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. But before we get too far into the show, we're going to go ahead and see who's joining us tonight on the Brew Crew. Going left to right, but we'll go ahead and save our special guest for last. We have got back from the dead, Fred Scholl. How are you doing tonight, Fred?
I'm doing good. How are you, Joe?
It's doing good. It's been I was off last week. I think I'd I don't know, school or something I was doing, but it's nice to be back on and good to talk some tech with you tonight.
Good to see you guys again. Yeah, enjoying the beginning of fall here in the New Jersey, New York area, which is undoubtedly the nicest time of the year up here. Cooling off, and the trees are starting to change, and otherwise pretty quiet here, and looks like we've got a good bit of stuff to talk about, so I guess let's move right along.
Awesome. And joining us tonight, our special guest, but he's not really a guest anymore. He's been on the show multiple times. Is Patrick Campanale from GadgetSpot.com. How are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. It's very hot in this room right now, but it's gonna be some fun stuff to talk about tonight.
It's hot outside here, so I mean, you know.
Well, you're in Florida, so. And joining us for our special guest, like I mentioned earlier, is Chris. Last name. Dierkes. Okay. He's a manager at a store in AT&T here in Michigan, and just go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
I've worked for AT&T for 7 years, or six and a half years actually, and I've been on your show a few times, and I love talking tech, so that's one of the things where after a really long iPhone day, I really like to do this show because it's fun time to talk tech and have a good time.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and quick housekeeping rules before we get too far into the show. You can keep up with us on the socials. If you have any questions or comments for us, go ahead and use the hashtag MCOJBrew if you want to send us a question or something while you're watching the show. And if you're watching us on Google Hangouts on Google+, go ahead and send us a question via the Q&A, and we'll be sure to get those answered live. And also, since I just remembered because Chris messaged me a few minutes before we went live on the show, because Chris is the bomb diggity, we have got a free Mophie Power Station plus 2X with a lightning charger included with it to give away to one of our viewers tonight. So we're not exactly sure how this giveaway is going to run, but for the time being, just go ahead and leave a comment below this video when it's uploaded to the YouTube channel, because then we'll have you guys comment for like a week or so. I'll have more details I'll put in the description for this video after it's uploaded. But if you do want a chance to win that thing, just go ahead and leave a comment down below the video, and we'll probably run it for a week, and then we'll go ahead and pick a winner to get an awesome power station for their phone. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and finally get into the show, and I will let Fred lead us off with the big news that Pebble announced today with the Pebble Time Round. So what is this smartwatch all about, and do you think it has a spot in the already crowded market of smartwatches that are being released this year?
Well, yes, indeed. The market is rather crowded. We've just had the next generation Apple Watch and, of course, a whole slew of new Android watches announced, and Pebble jumped right onto the bandwagon, as it were. And what they've done was thrown us kind of a curveball, no pun intended, but what Pebble has put out is the Pebble Time Round, which is indeed a round-faced watch, as the name suggests. Unlike our friend the Moto 360, there is no flat tire. It is round. all around. There is a fairly large bezel on this, which does take up quite a bit of the screen real estate. I don't have the actual width of the watch. The thickness, though, is really quite thin. It's 7.5 millimeters, and I don't know if that's the thinnest that's out there. Well, they're calling it the thinnest smartwatch, so presuming that what they're telling us there is true. And well, I myself have not tested any of the previous Pebbles, so I don't have too much to say about quality here. I'll be looking forward to getting my hands on one of these, or getting one of these on my hand, as it were. But is there a spot for it in the market? I would like to think that there is. Am I correct that the Pebbles are compatible with both iOS and Android?
Yes, you're correct on that spot.
Yeah, so I guess having an OS agnostic watch certainly has a place in the market, particularly for guys like us that jump around from one phone to another all the time.
Pebble's not the only person that does that anymore, though.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, personally, I own the original Pebble and the Pebble Steel, so I haven't used the Pebble Time yet, which does have their new timeline, or not operating system, but their new timeline user interface they're calling. So I haven't got a chance to test that out quite yet, but from what I've seen so far from the Pebble Time and the Pebble Time Steel, they've been out for a couple months now. It looks like an interesting operating system. It does look a bit cartoony for my liking. I was not a big fan at all of the actual hardware design for the Pebble Time, and I really do think that the Time Round is the best looking watch Pebble's created yet. Personally, for $250 though, you're looking at just about $100 less than what you're gonna spend on something such as the Huawei watch, or roughly the same price too for the new Moto 360. So when you get around there, yes, it's a circular smartwatch. It looks like it's made out of pretty solid materials, and it is a full circular display. $250, although it's not the most expensive, you're getting in that range where, hey, if I spend $50 or $100 more, I could get something that's really, really high-end, has a much more intuitive operating system, and now in 2015 is going to work with both Android and iOS. So I love that we have choice out here, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that are true to this Pebble brand, and they're going to flock to it because they just like that OS and they like that company. So I think it's awesome they finally got a smartwatch that really looks like a watch. Personally, it's not going to be for me, but I think they're going to have a really solid market for this, and I can see them doing really, really well with this product.
See, I've actually got a completely opposite view of you, Joe. I think it's the most ugly watch that Pebble made. I really do not like it. I mean, that bezel is huge, and especially at $250. I mean, at $250, you can buy a brand new Watcher Bane, and a Watcher Bane is a gorgeous watch, and it's platform agnostic. And I mean, think about what a Watcher Bane does and what a Pebble does, and I mean, it's night and day with what operating system capabilities. Now, I mean, the Pebble Time Round has some cool features. Quick charging, 15 minutes gets you a supposed day of use, and obviously that depends on how hard you use it that day, and it depends on a lot of things, but supposedly 15 minutes gives you a day of use, which is awesome. But you've also got to think, what use do you have out of that day? There's no touch screen, there's no, Google Now, so you can't look at your watch and talk to it to reply. So you're losing a lot of features, especially at that $250 price point. Had it been, $149, I think they would have had a home run. I really do. But at $249, they're fighting with the big dogs, and I think they might lose.
Right. Well, I mean, then again, you've also got. Okay. Well, I was actually just looking. I was going to say that this thing's going to get that 7 days, because most Pebble watches, they've got to advertise like a week of battery life. But I was just looking on their site, and I'll actually go ahead and screen share this for you guys so you can see. But right here it says battery life up to 2 days. So I was assuming this is going to be like a week of battery life like all their other watches, but apparently we're only going to get 2 days out of it. Which, if you look at some things like the Watch Urbane, there are people that report they get 2 days of full use out of it. So with this new bit of information just found, I don't know if I still stand on the idea that they're going to do insanely well with this, because if you followed the Pebble watches at all, they're 7 days of battery life has always been kind of one of their biggest marketing pushes for them. So only 2 days of battery life is a bit disappointing, I will say that, but I'm still going to stick to the point that I think they can find a market for this, because there are some people that are just dedicated and loyal to that Pebble brand. I think they're still going to maybe not be the most successful smartwatch in the market, but I still think they're going to find some wiggle room in there to stay fairly strong.
I agree.
Now there is. I just noticed there is. They've put out already an SDK for this, and I guess there's already been an SDK for Pebble watches in general. And I would have to wonder whether there are going to be some interesting apps for it that are not available someplace else. If people pick up on it and start doing some development, maybe that will give them a little more of a niche in the market. And as far as the bezel, I think it doesn't look that bad in black. I think it looks fairly elegant and a little dignified in black. The white looks a little goofy for my taste.
What about you, Chris? Are you a user of smartwatches, or have you ever tested out a Pebble before?
Just the original Pebbles, the Pebble Steel, and I mean, I kind of fell in love with the Moto 360 and used that for a while, and it was kind of hard to change from anything else. Everything else seemed a little bit, maybe not. It's like if you're gonna have a smartwatch, you want the functionality of a smartwatch. You don't just want it to be an electronic watch, so to speak. I mean, reading your heart rate is one thing, or counting your steps, but I want that increased functionality. And I think that the Moto 360 was the really first watch that I said, wow, I would spend the money to buy that personally. I mean,
right.
But there's different strokes for different folks. Some people don't want all that functionality. Some people just want simplistic with maybe a few additional functions. So.
Yeah, so it'll be cool to see how Pebble markets this. I mean, they just released the Pebble Time, like I said, a couple months ago. They are offering people, if they backed it on Kickstarter, they're offering them like $50 off the price of the Pebble Time round if they recently ordered a Pebble Time. So they're staying true to the people that are already supporting them, which is cool to see. But we're gonna go ahead and have to wait and see how the round works for them, and if this is a move that's gonna keep them alive in the smartwatch world, because as time goes on, as we see more and more companies release smartwatches, such as Huawei with the Huawei watch, which is just downright gorgeous, it's going to be a tough market. It's not the same market they entered a couple years ago in 2011 with the original Pebble, so it'll be fun to see how this works and if they're still going to stay relevant in this industry. But going on from that, I think we've talked about Pebble enough. Let's go ahead and talk about another company, or a company that's struggling to stay afloat, but it looks like they've got a very cool trick up their sleeve, and just looking at pictures of this device today, I'm already anxious to start taking those dollar bills out of my wallet. So, Patrick, go ahead and tell us about this new phone called the BlackBerry Priv.
I mean, BlackBerry's been out of the market for how long? Year, 2 years, more. They've been out of the mainstream market, and they've tried their hand at building Android apps into BlackBerry OS a couple times, and it worked pretty good. The Z10 was a good phone. I know a lot of friends who loved that phone, and BlackBerry's been just on a downward spiral, more or less, for the past year plus. And so to hear they're making a comeback was really interesting to me. And then I looked at their phone, and I'm like, I've seen that somewhere before. And for those of you listening, I'll go ahead and I'll post this picture later on my socials. But I'm going to go ahead and screen share. And as you see here, it looks a lot like a phone that came out, a couple years ago by a company called HP. The HP Pre 3. That's exactly what I thought of. And if the keyboard is anything like the Pre 3 and anything like previous BlackBerry keyboards, it's going to be phenomenal. But in this day and age, do we really need a physical keyboard?
Yes.
How many people really? You think we need a physical keyboard?
I would go to a physical keyboard in a heartbeat. I'm grown accustomed to virtual QWERTY keyboards, and I've gotten pretty fast with them. But any chance I get in a BlackBerry device to review, I fall in love with it and want to stick with something that I can actually have a physical keyboard to type on. I won't say I haven't I don't know. That's only for BlackBerry devices, and I tried other phones that have physical keyboards, but there's something about a BlackBerry manufactured and produced physical keyboard that's just unlike anything else on the market. And it sounds weird to say like a keyboard is going to make a difference for me in a smartphone, but I would honestly put down the money for that thing if it's got good specs just to have Android, which is the most exciting part about this phone, with a keyboard on a device like that.
But even with a 5 to 5.5 inch screen, which is what it's rumored to have, somewhere between 5 to 5.5, are you really going to want to take an already fairly large device and slide it up another inch and a half so you have a keyboard and make a big device bigger? Because what I learned when I was using Palm phones, there are no cases. You're not going to find a case for it. You're not going to have an OtterBox. You're not going to have a LifeProof.
Well, I hate boxes and I hate LifeProofs. I don't use cases on my phones. So my only concern would be the weight distribution on it, if it's going to be up, if it's going to be top heavy or not. I forgot what site I was reading, but I had heard somewhere that whoever got early hands-on time with like a prototype version of this device said that the weight distribution was handled very smartly, so that even when the slider was, or the device was kicked up for the keyboard to be accessible, it didn't feel top heavy or anything. So I'm definitely going to want to get my hands on with the device when it comes out to see how it's going to feel. But from what I've seen so far, I do think it looks very nicely designed. And again, I think I mentioned this once, but this is a BlackBerry phone running Android Lollipop on here, possibly Android M by the time it's released. So for me personally, I know Chris, I think, wants to talk about this phone in a second, but I've always wanted a BlackBerry device, but I can't get one as my daily driver for the fact that I rely on Google services every single day, whether it's Hangouts or Google Now or Google Search on there or Google Keep. There's so many Google apps that I use that I need on a daily basis to just run Mobile Cup of Joe or do stuff for school, etc. So the fact that I'm going to be able to get a phone that's got that BlackBerry design, that BlackBerry keyboard, with Google Apps sounds like a perfect combination for me personally. So, Chris, what do you want to add to it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Joe. I think there is still a market for a physical keyboard. I mean, I know I see it, you know, on a, I don't want to say a daily basis, but, you know, I see consumers still come in and still like that physical keyboard. But, you know, I think that, you know, and not to speak off place here, but, you know, BlackBerry, you know, I've been a very loyal BlackBerry fan, especially in the enterprise world. Is it a like, you know, I was, you know, comparing, you know, my Passport, and, you know, is it a phone that you're going to watch Netflix on? Is it? No. I mean, is it a phone that you're going to, you know, really do a lot of media on? No. But for productivity, I still have a really hard time finding a phone that is as good as BlackBerry still to this day. I mean, especially in an enterprise market, and the keyboard, you know, nobody does a physical keyboard better than BlackBerry. The integration, the shortcuts, the feel of the hand. So I mean, I've been this device was originally codenamed the Venice, BlackBerry Venice, and it was leaked, not leaked, but you know, shown at one of BlackBerry's World Conferences, like for a hot second in the prototype. So I mean, I've been waiting for this device for a long time, and I'm really excited to see what they would do. But I agree with you, Joe, that if you need a one device to use, this could be the perfect harmony that they've been looking for. Because yes, you can run Androids, yes, you can run APK files, but APK files, but anything with Google services you can't run, and that's for a lot of people that's really important, such as yourself. So I'm excited.
Exactly, especially too when Android M gets released for this device, or even if it ships with Android M, you know, you're going to be getting the functionality also of Google Now on tap, which in itself looks phenomenal. So again, that's building more functionality onto a device that's already kind of built for productivity. So we could be looking at a pretty sweet phone for getting work done. So Patrick, what did you want to add to this?
Here's the thing. You guys are all talking about, you know, the productivity of BlackBerry, and a lot of that came from BlackBerry Enterprise Server and how BlackBerry OS was designed. If this is shipping with what looks like pure AOSP, what makes this different than picking up a Nexus besides a keyboard?
That's a good point. That's actually a very good question. For me, still,
BlackBerries were super productive because of the operating system they ran, because of how they worked. These screenshots look like pure AOSP. So it looks like it's a Nexus that has a keyboard.
Now,
The
Patrick, did you say it has some BlackBerry features on it?
No, that's Christopher that said that.
Or Chris, I'm sorry, I'm getting these names
Yeah,
mixed up.
if you research some of the other leaked pictures, like those were the actual prototype, the prototype pictures. But if you look closely at some of the other prototype pictures that were leaked, there still is what looks to be like a BlackBerry hub, which is one of the biggest things. I wish I had the screenshot available, but I thought the same thing that you did, Patrick. I said, well, one of the reasons I really love BlackBerry is because of the core BlackBerry features. And so I did some more research, and I found that there was what looks like anyway the BlackBerry hub, which is what I'm really excited for. So.
Okay, yeah, then that makes sense because looking at the pictures that we've got here, it just looks like AOSP. As long as they do integrate what made BlackBerry good, then I think it will be a home run, especially in the enterprise environment. But if all it is AOSP with the sliding keyboard, I don't know that there's really a home for it.
Right, well, it's cool, too, because I was reading online, and it looks like they're already getting deals signed with the carriers and stuff, so when this thing launches, I believe sometime around mid-late November, we should be seeing it on the big guys like AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, all the big hitters in the U.S., which is going to be pretty cool, too, because for BlackBerry devices in the past, the Classic came out on AT&T, but that might have been the only carrier I can think of it was released on. Then things like the Z30, that was a Verizon exclusive, so BlackBerry getting their foot in the door and being available on numerous carriers here in the States, I think is going to help them a lot too. Because if a business person walks in, they say, I want a phone that's going to help me get stuff done. And if the phone does turn out to have those features, such as the BlackBerry Hub with a physical keyboard, and if it's priced relatively respectfully, maybe like $99, $199 with a new 2-year contract, I think they could really do very, very well here with this handset. So, going from that though, let's go ahead and talk about some other Android-powered phones. These ones you might be just slightly more familiar with, and that is that they are, if I can get my words right, the 2 new Nexus devices that we are expecting to be announced at Google's September 29th event coming up next week. So, the 2 devices in question are, of course, the successors to the Nexus 5 and the Nexus 6. And thanks to some new renders and leaks from Android Police, we've got all the details on what is supposedly going to be seen on September 29th with the Nexus 5X and the Nexus 6P. So I'll go ahead and get started talking about the first device, which is the Nexus 5X. With this phone, we are looking at a 5.2-inch 1080p display, USB Type-C standard for the charging like we saw on the OnePlus 2 earlier this year. Weight of reportedly 177 grams, which does seem a bit hefty for a smaller 5.2-inch device for a phone. As for other specs though, rumors of 3 gigabytes of RAM, but we could also be looking at 2 gigs. It's still kind of murky there. And then I'll go ahead and share a screenshot from Android Police to look at the color options that will be available. In case you are listening to the podcast, we're looking at a white model, a black one, and something that was originally called a mint, but they're calling it ice blue now, but it does look like it's got kind of a minty color to it. And just from the renders, it looks like they're going to have kind of a soft touch backing to them. That could be completely false, but just from what we've seen so far from these renders, looks like it will have kind of a soft plastic grip for the texture on the phone. And of course, we've got that kind of raised camera sensor on the back as well. There is a fingerprint sensor, and it also looks like there's some sort of a laser autofocus going along with a dual LED flash. So personally, I was a huge fan of the Nexus 5. That was the first phone that I really rooted and ROMmed and got my hands dirty with the whole ROMming experience with Android. So I've got a very special place in my heart for that Nexus 5 line. So of course I'm extremely excited to see what the Nexus 5X is going to bring to the table. Honestly, I think it looks like a really well-made smartphone. A 1080p display is fine on a smaller 5.2-inch screen size. It does seem like it's going to be a bit heavy, but I really do like having a fingerprint sensor on there, especially with the integration of Android M and Android Pay. So we'll go ahead and talk about the Nexus 6P here in a second, But you guys here, what do you think about this updated Nexus 5? Do you think there's enough improvements here from not last year's, but 2 years um, later Nexus 5, or do you think that it's a little underwhelming? What are your thoughts?
I think it looks great. It looks like a 1520, which if you guys have seen me on the show before, you know how much I love Windows Phone. So it looks like a 1520. If the power, or if I can get my words right, like Joe, if the fingerprint scanner works like, and this will probably be more on the 6P, but if the fingerprint scanner works like other devices that have it on the back, it also doubles as a power button if you put your finger on it. So that's awesome. You don't even have to, press a button. You just put your finger there and it turns on. Now, there's nothing that confirms that or denies that as fact. I know Huawei did it on their latest Mate S, and it looks awesome, and it functions awesome super quick. I really hope that's the case. But other than that, I think it looks like it's a great update to the Nexus 5, and what's really going to tell if it's going to be a good update is that price point.
Exactly, and I definitely want to get into further discussions about these devices. But before I do that, I also want to share a quick screenshot of the second device, which I think more people are excited for, and that is the successor to the Nexus 6 called the Nexus 6P. So we're looking at kind of a similar design roughly, but I will talk about this for the people listening to the podcast. At the top of the phone, we do have a camera sensor, but there's also a very large chin with a long black sensor or glass layered across it. And personally, I think it looks extremely hideous, and I would not want to be seen carrying that phone. I know Patrick thinks otherwise because he thinks there could be some functionality baked into that chin there that we may not know about, and that could very well be true. But just from a design standpoint on this phone, I'm not 100% sold on it. As for some quick specs, we don't have a whole lot, but we are looking at a 5.7-inch 1440p display, so that is, of course, Quad HD. As for other specs on it, front-facing speakers, just like the Nexus 5X, Snapdragon 810 processor, 3264, and even a 128GB variant for your storage, and again, USB Type-C on there. So out of these two devices, personally, I am looking more forward to the Nexus 5 just because after having used the LG G4 for about a month now, I do like that smaller phone. I had the Nexus 6 as my daily driver before this, and although I really did love the phone, I would be lying if I said I didn't miss having a phone I can actually navigate the whole thing with one hand. So if I were to choose between these devices, it'd be the Nexus 5X. But again, like Patrick said, we don't know pricing on this yet. We don't know if they're going to be priced very affordably like the Nexus 4 or the Nexus 5 were, or if they're going to try to go for a more standard pricing scheme like they did for the Nexus 6. So I'll go left to right real quick. We'll go ahead and go with Chris first. Are you a big Nexus user? And if you had to choose between either of these devices, which one would you be more inclined to go with?
I was a Nexus. I had a Nexus 4 and a Nexus 5 unlocked. Obviously, I mean AT&T. The first Nexus phone that we really carried as a company was the Nexus 6, which is a really really big phone. But when the Nexus 5 came out, I really thought the simplicity of the design and the feel of the phone was actually a welcome change. I mean, I really just thought it was a very sound design and very efficient and run very smooth. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to bring to market, if they are going to hit the carriers or if they are going to stay with the unlocked crowd. And but on a personal level, I don't use them. I'm an iPhone person myself, so but I have used them, and I think that of the two designs, I really like the LG version.
What about you, Fred? Back from the dead, Fred. The
Well,
5X or the 6P?
Yeah, I kind of like them both. I don't have a problem with the larger screen size. I've got a Nexus 6 right now. I'm a big fan, and I enjoy the larger screen. Although I still have a Nexus 5 kicking around. I've been a longtime Nexus fan. As you guys know, I'm one of the few people here, actually the only regular on the show, although we've had a couple of guests who were actually fans of the the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, which I held on to for a long time. But again, price point is going to be key here, but I'd certainly look forward to taking either or both of these out for a spin.
And Patrick, our resident Nexus 6 user, I think I know what phone you're going to lean to, but why would you go ahead and pick the Nexus 6P over this?
One word, Huawei. I absolutely love Huawei as a company. They are, I mean, honestly, they're the most developer-friendly company out there. They're wanting to, I mean, they're actually contemplating kicking their Emotion UI operating system out the door and replacing it with pure AOSP. And to help them in that effort, they are sending multiple development teams, multiple devices to help them on the ports. And that alone makes me love the company. But they also make extremely solid phones. I don't know, Joe, if you had a chance to use the P8 Lite. I did.
Unfortunately, I did not.
It's a $250 phone that has LTE. It pulled almost 95 meg down on T-Mobile for $250. Great camera, super fast, even though it's only got a Snapdragon 615 in it. It's a fantastic phone, and it's low end. I can't even imagine how amazing a high-end phone from Huawei is going to be. Especially when you're talking, I mean, you know, the 810, once they fix all that heating issues, USB Type-C, I mean, everything we're talking about here is just killer. The P8 Lite had a 720p screen, but it was still absolutely beautiful. I mean, it looked as good as my Note 3. And so I'm really impressed by Huawei with their lower-end stuff. And then you have, you know, the Huawei watch that just came out, which looks absolutely gorgeous. You have all this stuff, and to me, Huawei is, and I know I'm going to take flack here, but Huawei is the superior brand here. Even though nobody in the U.S. knows the name, they are the better brand. They're the third top brand in the entire world for smartphone production. So they have the upper hand here for making a better phone, which is why I think they got the top seat for the phone. So I'm extremely excited, and I really hope to get some hands-on time with it.
Yeah, like I said, the thing I'm going to be looking for the most, and I know that every year I'm pretty sure this is what every Nexus fan looks forward to, or at least hopes we're going to get good performance out of, is going to be with the camera and the battery life. So hopefully with Android M, with the doze mode, I think is what doze or rest mode that they're calling it, that should improve battery life drastically. Patrick, how is Huawei's performance with cameras generally? Because I haven't really tested out any Huawei devices for myself personally, so I'm not really familiar with how they generally do on their optics.
I mean, my P8 Lite had a 13 megapixel camera on it, so you know the megapixel count's high. But regardless of that, it was, for a $250 phone, it was quite good. It was a little bit, you know, low on the color reproduction, but that was easily touched up in post if you really wanted to, and you could do that in any of the apps. Low light wasn't that great, but again, we were talking a $250 phone.
Right.
We're talking, you know, a Snapdragon 615. We're not talking 810s and you know, Nexus, or not Nexus, but Note 5 and S6 level stuff. And the camera was very adequate, if not great, for what it was on the P8 Lite, and I've even got a ZenMate 2 here, and it's good on both of them. So I'm really excited to see where they come. And you know, speaking of the design of it, though, I know Joe said that I might think there's something else up there, and I do. I think there could be a type of laser autofocus up there hidden away somewhere. But even on Google+, Russell Holly and Artem from Android Police both said, you know, everybody's hating on the design, but as soon as you get the phone, regardless of what it looks like, you're going to love it because it's a Nexus. People, you know, hate on the design all day long, but the second it's in your hand, you're going to forget the design and be, oh my goodness, Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to not get excited over a new Nexus phone. I mean, as much as I'm complaining about how I don't like the design of the Nexus 6P, like you said, the second I get one into review, it wouldn't be all giddy about it because it's another Nexus device to check out. It's going to have the latest version of Android, and it's going to be fantastic. One more question I want to ask the general group here. Whoever wants to answer this can, then we'll get into the iPhone stuff. Do you think we're going to see pricing similar to the Nexus 5 where it's dirt cheap and is affordable for pretty much everybody unlocked? Or do you think we're going to see this hit all the carriers like the Nexus 6 didn't have more traditional pricing when we're looking at the unlocked models ranging anywhere from the $500 to $600 price point? Silence.
Gut feeling here is going to be flagship pricing on the 6 and more mid-range pricing on the 5. One would have to think, but hard to predict what Google is thinking. We weren't really expecting a true flagship Nexus at all until the 6 came out, so it'll be interesting to see what the marketing spin is going to be.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw some prices out there because I did that during the Apple event and I was spot on, so let's see how close I can get. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the 5X is going to be $350 base model.
I can see
that. That would have been my guess.
I'm going to go out on another limb and say the 6P base model, because base model is what, a 32? Yeah,
yes.
Base model is a 32. Apple, take hint. I'm gonna say, I think Google got bit when they launched the Nexus 6, going from 250 to what? What did the Nexus 6 launch at? 650?
650, yeah.
I think they got bit at that price. I think they're gonna launch at 550, and then either go in $50 or $75 increments for storage upgrades. I don't think they're gonna go the full $100 storage because storage is just getting so cheap. So I'm thinking 550 and maybe 556 and 650. That's what I'm thinking for the 6P. It would make sense. It would make a lot of sense if they did a pricing like that because then they'd be coming in at under the iPhone. You could get a 128 gig Nexus for the price of a 16 gig iPhone 6.
Yeah, so like I said, we've still just are speculating what we've heard leaks of so far. I mean, the renders Android Police look pretty legit, but we only have to wait till Tuesday for this announcement, so we don't have long to go, and before we know it, new Nexus devices are going to be here regardless. If you like the design or not, you're going to love it once you get your hands on it. So we will have all the details on that the next time we have a show here, so hopefully next week we'll get the crew here and be able to talk about all the new Nexuses in their official glory when the time comes next week. But as Patrick was talking about and referencing the iPhones, we have got Chris here, and he has got some very special guests of his own to share with us. If you haven't heard, there's this company called Apple, I believe. They released 2 new devices, the iPhone 6S and the 6S Plus. Not really a big deal, but he does have them here to show you in case you have not heard about them yet. So I'm obviously BSing you guys. Chris, go ahead and show these folks the new iPhones that you've got with you.
Well, the first thing I wanted to do is when I was on the show last year and I had the devices, I did not show the boxes. And for people in the tech world, I know that one of my favorite things is the actual unboxing itself. And the iPhone 6 box, it had the indentation of the phone, but there was no picture. But the new phones, on the other hand, do have a very nice picture on the front. That is the 6, and this is the the 6S, and this is a 6S Plus. So again, color around. So I wanted to do my own little unboxing here. So this is the 6S, and I have only had this in my possession, actually using it for a couple hours now. But there it is in all of its glory. I don't know how well we can see that. Can we all see that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So everyone wants to know what the rose gold looks like. That is, it reminds me of the iPhone 5S when it launched. Everybody wanted the gold one, and this is the rose gold. So I know it's probably a little bit difficult to see, so we'll turn this on, and hopefully we can get some sort of color description of what it is. A lot of people say it looks pink. I personally don't think it looks pink, but I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just colorblind, but it is a very elegant-looking device. I mean, obviously the physical structure didn't change. It does feel a little bit heavier because of the new aluminum, which is something that I personally liked. You can really notice that in the 6 Plus, which I will also get out. And this one is actually still running its demo loop right now. So if you see, you can see one of the live wallpapers kind of working in the background right there, which is pretty cool. And this is the normal gold one. So if you hold in comparison the two, just for, I don't know how well we're going to be able to see that color differentiation, but
it comes through. It's kind of a pink sort of undertone when the light is at the right angle.
It's like coral, kind of.
Yeah, that's what somebody did refer to that as coral today, which is interesting that you say that. So, like I said, I've only had it for a couple hours of really hands-on, so I tried to get it as most set up as I could as possible. And I think that the phone itself is the tagline that they have used is the only thing that's changed is everything. And I would agree with that. I mean, the internals of the phone are so much better, in my opinion, and it's such a great improvement that I think it almost gets masked by the massive launch of the iPhone 6 last year. And so I think that the 3D touch, which obviously is going to be a little bit hard to demonstrate, but that's one of the key selling points to the phone. And I've noticed just from initial productivity, it is a very useful feature. So I mean, if you go into a text message right here, and you see if we can get zoomed in here, and we push and hold, I mean, it pops up, and it kind of takes you back for a second. You feel a slight vibration when you do it, and it kind of takes you off guard if you've used an iPhone ever for a long period of time, and I thought it was a really cool feature. So camera is really good. Obviously they improved that, and I really instead of me kind of talking about it, do you guys have any questions? Obviously you've read everything online. Is there anything you want to know? Anything that you were curious about? Fire away.
I do about 3D touch because just to explain really quick for those of you that aren't super familiar with it, 3D touch is essentially a new way to interact with the iPhone. So you can, the more pressure you apply to the screen on certain applications or certain menus, you get further options of ways to interact with what you're using on the phone. My question is there really a lot of use for it right now? Because I was watching some reviews for it, or for the 6S and the 6S Plus today, and it looks like right now, from what I've seen, there isn't a whole lot you can do with it just because developers still have to rewrite their applications and add in the functionality for it. So is there really a lot you can use with it right now, or is it kind of a feature that's really cool, but we have to wait and see what developers do with it?
Well, I think that it's a two-part answer. I think that yes, developers are going to have to modify their apps so that they can do that. The peek and pop content. That's the phrase that the terminology they use is a peek and a pop. And where I notice where it really makes a difference is in productivity. Things that I mean, me personally, on a day like today, I probably got, I don't know, 100 emails. So going into one of your emails, if you really want to see what the content is, you push and hold, and you can see. I mean, it's going to be kind of difficult to show, but you push and you hold, and you got your content right there. And if you slide up, you can reply, you can forward, you can mark, notify. So I think that once people get used to the way that the operating system functions and the way that the new phone functions, you'll find that it'll almost become second nature. And while I agree that the apps are, the phone just came out today, so people are going to have to play some catch up. But I think that from initial use, I was really impressed with what it did.
I mean, I had hands-on today with the 6S Plus at work, and honestly, I see no difference. Now, I understand that it actually does, because I was testing it, and you actually do have to press harder on the screen to get 3D touch to activate, but productivity-wise, there's no difference in a long press. The only thing is it's a new type of long press. I mean, it's something that And I know the Apple fans are going to hate me. It's something that Android's done for years. Is just different actions for a long press. Why would you want a long press on an email to read it when you can just tap into it? It personally is what I'm thinking. I mean, why hold my finger on an email to read when I can just tap it and then scroll?
Well, I think
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
Fred. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's a matter of preference, but still, it's um, it's another movement. It's another event. You can have multiple responses. I would be a little more interested to see not just the productivity applications, but uses in other types of applications. Maybe music creating programs. Maybe piano type keyboards on iPhone or even iPad, where you may have more touch sensitivity now. Another response when you press the key down, maybe in drawing and art programs. I'd be interested to see where it goes. And let's not forget that there was a time when nobody knew what to do with a two-button mouse, and now it's you can't imagine not having a right click on a mouse. So yeah, I'll be interested to see where they take it and where developers take it.
I mean, I explored, like I said, I explored the apps, the core apps that come on the phone, and things where I did notice, email, okay, you tap and you can read through the email or you can long press, and that'll take a personal preference, but it's like if I push and hold the photos, for example, I can really quickly scroll down to my most recent without having to open the app and then search for the most recent or go to my favorites. So it's just, can you do it the old way? Yeah. Is it improved? I personally, I think so. I think it'll take people some time to get used to.
Now, aside with 3D Touch, what about like just general day-to-day stuff? Because I know you said that the internals, you said were like a pretty big update. So does it seem like a considerably faster device compared to like the original 6 or 6 Plus?
Yeah, I mean, again, as far as I mean, I haven't had a full day with it. I will tell you that I noticed things that like Siri, for example. Siri just seemed to be a little bit more snappy than normal. The camera, seemed to open a little bit quicker. Everything just seemed to function better. I mean, I that's the point of the phone is that they put these new internals in it to make it, a good successor. But
right.
They didn't change the physical design, obviously, so it kind of, I think that is a shadow. That's an opinion, obviously, but I think it's kind of a shadow over what the phone really can do.
I did notice that the fingerprint sensor was very, very quick. A lot quicker than the 5S especially, but even faster than the 6, which I was very surprised with. I didn't think. I mean, they didn't really talk much about improving the fingerprint sensor, did they? Or did I just miss that in the announcement?
No, actually, that is on the Apple release spec sheet. I don't have it in front of me what the terminology is, but it is an improved fingerprint reader.
Yeah, because I noticed it was extremely quick, almost instant.
It is. It is very, very quick. I mean, I think it's a great device. It's a great addition to their lineup. And today we had, just like every iPhone launch, we had a lot of people waiting to get their hands on it. And everybody who purchased one, they came up to me. They were super excited, and we were, obviously we were thrilled as a company to have them on board with us still. And it's been all around great day.
Have you had a chance to play with 4K video yet?
I haven't. I have a 4K TV at my house, and I was going to record a video and try to, get that all done. But I just simply, like I told you guys before we went live, I was there today from about 5:45 till about 8:20 when I got home. So I didn't really have a whole lot of chance to dive into the 4K, but I'm anxious. That's something I am, going to try here probably as soon as I get off this hangout.
So for your store today, did you have like a crazy crowd of people, like bigger than the 6 launch or a little smaller, or how'd they go at the store today with that?
Well, we had. I was at a different store than I was last year.
Okay.
And so there was a line of people. I'm not really sure how many people were out front. Just I spent majority of the morning getting ready for the launch. Getting ready to put everything on display. There was a lot of people outside waiting. We went through the launch. We had beverages for everybody. So I mean, it was another launch, and we were, more importantly, we were steady busy all day. I mean, we were steady, consistent flow of traffic, and it was all iPhone traffic, and so people were very anxious to see what rose gold looked like, and they were really excited to get their hands on one.
All right. Well, I asked it for the Nexus 5X and the SP or 6P, so I got to ask it here. Given the choice between the 6S and the 6SP, Alex, not Alex, he's joining us in just a second. Chris, what device would you be more inclined to go with?
If I only could choose one, I think that I would probably choose the 6S Plus. If you would have asked me that question last year, which I believe you did ask me that question last year, I told you the regular 6, but I got the chance to use a normal 6 Plus about halfway through the year for an extended period of time, and once you go to back to the smaller one, it's a little bit harder to you kind of miss the bigger landscape. So I think if I can only have one, I would probably choose the 6S Plus.
Well, we do have a question in the Q&A. We'll hit that in just a second, but we do have a hacker amongst us who has snuck into our Google Hangout here. We have got Alex from iTech Triad. So welcome to the show for the first time, and Ben hiding in the background there.
Ben's is kind of creeping. How you gentlemen doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Good, going good. Actually, we were just listening to a podcast. I was restoring iPhone 6 Plus S or 6S Plus. I keep getting it confused. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, definitely. So I see you've got the same microphone setup as me, so I already like you a lot.
Yeah.
So thoughts on the new iPhones? What are you thinking about them?
In the first, I think Ben, it's been the past about 3 hours I've been using it. For me, I don't want to say too much because I haven't used it in depth as much. But for me, I actually think if you look back between, let's say, the S model, the 5S versus the 6S, I feel that the 5S had more to offer on the upgrade end than the 6S does. The reason I say, for me, Force Touch still isn't. It's still, though yes, you can have your Force Touch to access other apps. For me, it took about, I'd say, about 10 minutes to finally get it figured out. Just because I kept, and I guess maybe I'm just a dumb person, but you know how when you go to delete an app, you hold the icon and start shaking. That's kind of what kept happening. So I guess for me, the reason I say that is the top 3 things, of course, we see 2 gigs of RAM. We have that 3D touch and a better camera. For most people coming to 6, I wouldn't suggest upgrading at this point. That's this point, but that could change within the process of review.
So would you say someone from like a 6, like obviously the upgrade generally isn't worth it, but would you say someone coming from a 5S, that would it be like a good enough upgrade for them, would you say?
From a 5S, personally, it depends on the condition of their 5S. If the thing's almost dying out on them, yeah. If they can hold on another year, I would suggest another year. That's just me personally. I work at a technology repair store here in town, so I see some 5S still running great, and I think the 5S is still a solid phone that it could last them another year. If they're coming from anything of 5 or less, then I would definitely suggest 5 or less, go for it, by far. I think the biggest thing we'll see in people upgrading will be photographers. Mobile photographers are really going to want, I think, this phone.
Yeah, so I'm personally, I've never owned an iPhone as my device, but I was pretty intrigued by the 6 last year. I thought it looked like a pretty nice smartphone. And the 6S looks really interesting, but I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing with 3D Touch. It looks like a neat concept, but I'd like to see where Apple can take it to the next level. I like to see that we're finally getting an additional gigabyte of RAM. I like seeing the cameras being upgraded, and it just gives me more hope for the iPhone 7. The S release of the iPhone is never the most exciting. It's just kind of an upgrade to the big model they released last year. So it gives me a lot of hope for the iPhone 7, and it's kind of the point here. Like, this is our awesome phone release this year, so if you think this is awesome, just wait to what we do in our big release next year. So I think it's a solid phone. I think if you like iPhones, it seems like a solid device. Like I said, personally, that's just not operating system or a phone I prefer. But I think if you like iOS and you like those phones, it looks like a pretty nice device.
Mhm. I agree with that too. Regarding the 7, it actually has me more excited for the 7 currently, just because I feel that once they mature the 3D Touch and the current features that they have, I feel the 7. I was just mentioning it to Ben today. We were eating dinner, and I said, man, it's got me curious about the 7 now. Like, I wonder what Apple, once they have, because the 6S is just the matured version of the 6, but I feel like the 7 is what's really going to be just a big punch. But, again, we don't know. That's another year out.
Yeah, iPhone was just released today, and of course, us being tech journalists are already speculating what the new iPhone 7 is going to be. It's a disease.
Always.
So we do have to wrap things up because we are at the 10 o'clock mark, but we do have a question in the Q&A from Sergio Carretto. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And he's got a question about the BlackBerry Priv we were talking about earlier in the show. And he says, what do you guys think about the price of the Priv? He said he's thinking about $650 unlocked. What do you think about that? I think it's, personally, I'd hope it's lower than that, but if this is a high-end device, that could be right around the money if we're looking at a flagship smartphone from BlackBerry.
I think if BlackBerry goes at $650, they're not going to regain any market share because at $650, companies can stay with Samsung because a lot of companies have already moved away from BlackBerry and they've moved to Samsung or they've moved to iPhone. So if BlackBerry is going to give them something at the same exact price as everybody else, why make another massive move when you've got to move, how many hundreds, if not thousands, of devices? If you're going to be purchasing even at wholesaler pricing, it's going to be drastically different.
Right, and I really hope it's not $650. I'm just saying, I'm afraid it's going to be, but I really hope if they can get it at $500 or under, I think they could really hit a home run with it because pricing is going to ultimately be the deciding factor for that thing. But that is for every device out there, so that's kind of how it goes. So that's going to about do it here for tonight's show. We are at the 10 o'clock mark. Like I said, I don't want to drag this on too much longer because I know Chris has had a pretty big day, and I know he wants to go test out that 4K with his new iPhones. So thank you guys so much for watching tonight's show, and thank you to Alex and Ben for kind of sneaking in the show at the last stretch there. Last second, got to get the closing comments in. Before I go ahead and close the show, we'll catch up with our awesome, very different panel here. It's not the usual guys from the Brew Crew, but still some pretty cool faces here. We'll go ahead and start with the one normal Brew Crew member here, Fred.
Use that term very loosely, obviously. But, yeah, what's coming up? Well, I've got too much stuff here to review, and I just got contacted by Jam Audio, who's going to be sending me some headphones, earbuds, and speakers to review, or for our holiday guide, which maybe is something we ought to put together as we get into that season. I'm also going to have some news, which I can't really talk about and haven't seen the details yet, but on Monday I will have some news that I can put out regarding the bendability and durability testing of the iPhone 6S. There is a group that has been doing these types of tests, and they have bent, dropped, and dunked the iPhone 6, and we'll have some news on that in the early part of next week.
Very cool. And Patrick, our kind of guest, kind of panelist here, what's going on with you this week?
Well, I just, if you saw, I just posted a review about a very interesting type of mouse, the Maestro. And I've got another type of peripheral coming in probably early next week, maybe late next week. It's called the Myo, M-Y-O. It's interesting. it's like an armband. It goes all the way around your forearm, and it actually detects how your muscles move. So it can tell if you're clenching a fist. It can tell if you're moving your fingers. It's kind of creepy, but kind of awesome at the same time. They show it in their demo. You can control your phone. You can, like in the car, you wear it on your arm. You can use it to pause, play, skip songs on Spotify. They show you connecting it to a computer. They even show you connecting a computer to a TV and using it to play games. So I'm really excited to see exactly how accurate this thing is, considering supposedly it can detect when you just move a finger, even though it's almost at your elbow.
That is very cool. Definitely. And where can people check out this review at?
They can check it out at Gadget Spot, is where you can see the Maestro review, and the Mayo review will probably be up sometime in the next 3 weeks once I get the product in. I will send out a link on my socials to the Mayo so people can check it out, take a look at it, see what it's all about. I really don't know a whole lot about it. Hopefully, like I said, the next week it should come in, and then I'll start doing first impressions and stuff like that. And I'm really excited about this. It looks really awesome. There's a lot of stuff with just tech that's advancing in the pointer space, going from as Fred was talking about, the revolutionary 2-button mouse to now you can have something on your finger that's a mouse, and now supposedly something on your arm that can detect when you move your fingers. So things are progressing to a point where we might not even need mice in the next couple years. Our computers might just know when we're moving our hand.
Well, on that subject, I've also got a product on the way from the UK. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in passing, but the DXT ergonomic mouse. I don't have too much on it yet, but it's designed by a guy who is an ergonomist in London, UK, and that is on its way. It looks like it may have gotten hung up in customs, but will hopefully be here shortly.
Very cool. Sounds like lots of cool and exciting mice and peripherals reviews coming up soon from
rodent season here.
Getting to the exciting stuff. We go from the iPhones and Nexus devices to mice. It's a good time. And Chris, what's going on with you this week? And what are your plans with your new iPhones now? You get to keep those things, or are those just demo units?
Well, one is they're, I guess, both technically demo units. One of them belongs to my store, and the other one, Teresa has been nice enough to let me use for hopefully the foreseeable future. But as far as my week goes, it's iPhone week. iPhone lasts for iPhone week, iPhone month, depending on how you want to look at it. So that's pretty much what's going to consume my tech reviews is understanding iOS 9, excuse me, and really understanding the new phones, because people come in and they, you guys obviously, if I handed these devices to you, you would know what to do, and I probably won't teach me things, but to the customers, we love helping them, and we love making them love these devices and really get the full potential out of them. So that's pretty much what my week is going to be consistent of.
Awesome. And when the BlackBerry Priv gets announced and releases on AT&T, we'll be sure to get you on here again, because I know you'll probably be very stoked to talk about that.
I will bring it.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll go ahead and catch up with Alex and Ben, our special guests for like the last 10 minutes of the show. What do you guys have planned for the next week?
Well, this week, it's my first time being back on YouTube for the past 22 weeks or more. So kicking that off, I'm going to work on first impressions, of course, of the 6S Plus. Have to use it a little more before I can give a complete first impressions. Between that, just a few other detailed videos on it. I'm looking forward to doing that. I got that Tilt Energy case for the S6, writing up a review on that. So little things here and there, kind of getting back on the horse again and getting used to being back on YouTube. I think Ben's probably got like all of Best Buy to review, but
that's how it is this time of year.
Yeah, I got the Note 5 and the Moto X Pure Edition I'm doing this week. Hopefully.
Well, Alex, we'll have to have you on the show sometime for the actual whole show and not just like the last
Yeah.
stretch of it sometime
Yeah,
soon.
last 2 seconds. And Chris, hit me up on Hangouts, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the 6S Plus because I haven't used it as much. So love to compare notes, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Chris, did you want to say one last thing about the giveaway we got coming up?
Yeah, so I love to take credit saying it was my personal idea, but I would like to give a shout out to Lindsay Russell, who is a very good friend of mine who works for Mophie, and I hit her up last minute, and obviously the iPhone Day resonates for all vendors, not just Apple or AT&T, and she came through to give this power station away, and I have one, and I wish I had it with me. It's at my briefcase at work, but it is a very cool device, and she came through in a clutch right now to give you guys this giveaway, so I had to shout her out.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, for right now, and I'm probably going to go with this, if you do want to enter to win that Mophie Power Station, just go ahead and leave a comment below this video here and make sure you are subscribed here to the Mobile Cup of Joe YouTube channel. We will run it a week from this coming Saturday, so come next Saturday, which is going to be October 3rd, we'll go ahead and pick a winner, and we'll get that sent out to you. So again, just leave a comment on this video and make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you will be good to go to win that thing. And that's going to about wrap it up here for tonight's show. We got a lot talked about. We had awesome guests joining us. So thank you so much if you made it to this point in the show. If you want to stay on top of what we got going on here with the YouTube channel, just uploaded our Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus review, which I'm extremely happy with how that turned out. So go ahead and give that a look and subscribe to the channel to see what we got coming up, because as we get closer to the fall season, we're going to have a buttload of videos coming out of us soon. That sounded really inappropriate, but we're going to go ahead and roll with it. So along with that, make sure to hit us up on all the socials, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. Just type in Mobile Cup of Joe and you will find us. And to send us any questions throughout the week when we're not on the show, keep going ahead and using the hashtag MCOJBrew. That's going to do it for me and everyone here, everyone on the Brew crew that was not able to make it, and all of our second Brew crew here that joined us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic evening. Have a great weekend. Have a happy Apple week and an Apple month. And we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.